wanted to share some of my best photographs of some of my plants I'm growing currently. This is Arapaho. It's a Kent Stewart variety. It is actually a real red in person. I love his plants, and this is a particularly good one. The blooms are huge, and the red color is wonderful. It's very easy to propagate, and I'm still growing it after several years. And now we have baby doe. This is a very old vintage plant. I grew it from leaf. It was acquired at an Atlanta African violet show years ago by some of my club friends, and it is really a beautiful plant. It's also very easy to propagate. And this is Ethel's Explosion. I've grown it for many years. It has a lovely crown variegation. It's an Ethel champion plant, and it is a very dependable plant. Once it starts blooming, it basically almost always blooms. And the fantasy is dependable. And it sometimes it'll have a lot more fantasy, and it's a wonderful plant. I really love it. Also very easy to propagate from leaf. This is Optimara, Michigan. It's just a beautiful plant. It's one of the prettiest of their pinks, and it doesn't show in the picture, but as the blooms age, they develop beautiful tones, and they're very long lasting, and it also has really pretty leaves. And this is one of my oldest plants. I've had this plant about 30 years. My friend Mary gave it to me. Of course, it's a no ID. It's annoyed. And it blooms almost constantly, and it's been restarted a lot of times, and it's very stable, like no matter how often you restart it. And I believe it's an older Optimara, but I'm not certain about that. She purchased it before 1990, and we both shared it together over the years. And here we have Rob's Boularoo. It's a wonderful trailer, very dependable, very easy to grow. It's one of the best trailers, and always has the fantasy and the blooms, which is really, really nice. So I really like this one. This is Tomorrow Isabel. It has a lovely contrast between the very dark leaves and the pale pink blooms. It does tend to grow really tall, so I set its little pot down in a taller decorative vase to kind of hide that. It has a sort of a tree look about it, as its sister Annabelle does too. But you can disguise that with a decorative pot. It's really beautiful. And this is E.K. Boy Bykov, also known as Bullfight. Now my picture doesn't show here. It is really red, but I wanted to show the size of the blooms. This is a very small plant because I had restarted it, but the blooms are gigantic. They're like 3 inches across, and I enjoyed growing it for that reason. But it really is red. I wish I had a better uh, picture of the color. This is Pueblo. It's another Kent Stewart variety. In actuality, it is sort of a very unique coral pink. It's a wonderful plant and has wonderful leaves. And another one I really love, and I've been growing it for a long time. And this is Rose Bouquet. As you can see, I broke a leaf off. It's growing small for me, but it really has beautiful blooms, and it's easy to propagate as well. I have a couple of other ones, but this was the one that came into bloom, so I took the picture even though the leaf was broken. The blooms are actually prettier than the picture shows. And here's the spectacular Lunar Lily White. The blooms are just so much fun. That spectacular spider wasp bloom. It stays on the small side for me. It's a I'd say a large semi-miniature, and it takes a while to get a good structure to it. It is a little unruly at first. It blooms quite often, and of course it's so unique. I love it. And this is Maverick's Faded Jeans. It takes a rest in between bloom cycles, but the blooms last a really long time, and they are so beautiful. And it stayed a fairly small standard for me in my conditions. Has lovely leaves. I don't do anything to shape it. It kind of grows itself like that. I really recommend that one if you can find it. This is a vintage fantasy that an older friend of mine gave me leaves of, and it actually had belonged to her mother. So it's 40 plus years old. I wish I knew the name, but I don't. And I have used it in some hybridizing I've done and gotten some beautiful plants from that. I call it Margaret after the friend that gave it to me, but it is a no ID plant. It blooms a lot, and it's very easy to propagate. And this is Anne. Its first bloom. This is when it was a younger plant. Anne didn't grow at all for me until I moved it to a spot where it had window light and a light bulb that was a grow bulb. It seemed to prefer a combination of both lights. It was an east window, and once I moved it there, it just took off growing. Of course, I found that out accidentally. I didn't know that was going to happen. And the leaves propagate very easily in water. And here is Anthophoris Edith. Love this plant. It stays on the smaller side for me. It's very elegant looking. I love the elegant look of the blooms. It's a dependable plant. I like it a lot. And this is Optimara hiroshigi. It's one of their best plants. It's a quite a large plant. It takes a rest in between bloom cycles, but the blooms last for months. So it's one of my favorites, and sometimes it blooms solid white, but it usually has a little blue blush in it. I love it. And this is Sync's Big Bells. These bells are huge. They're like 3 times the size of the Optimara Isabel plant, for instance. This is when the plant was really young, but it's actually a large plant. And the blooms are just huge. I love it. It's so unique. And this is Optimara modesty. It's my favorite Optimara plant. I lost it one time because it got too cold, but of course I propagated the leaves, and it propagates very easily in water. I found a lot of variegates. The leaves will actually root a lot better in water for me. And anyway, I have the plant back now, and I have a couple of them, but I don't think it likes to get cold at all, so I need to be careful about that. Thank you for watching.